This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
I think young women are already seeing the beauty of being in this dirty game. By dirty game, I mean literally cement, didaga, huduba, you know, and stuff. So I think women are slowly moving into that, because it's not just being a contractor, it's also there's other aspects of being in construction.
Welcome to First Issues, where we spotlight hardworking entrepreneurs reshaping the commercial landscape of Botswana. In the dust-swept landscape of Botswana's construction sector, a new narrative is being built, one brick and one bold decision at a time. While the industry has long been viewed through a traditional, male-dominated lens, June Seisa is dismantling that scaffolding to reveal something entirely modern, a construction firm led by vision, precision and youth. June Seisa isn't just managing projects. She is redefining what it means to be a young Botswana entrepreneur in a high-stakes field with her construction company, Lakenet. It is through this endeavor that June has worked on government undertakings such as turnkey projects with the Gwening District Council, as well as the Ekateni Veld Product Center as far as Bere in the Khanti district. In a world of heavy machinery and complex logistics, her approach combines technical rigor with a fresh strategic perspective. She represents a generation of women who are not waiting for a seat at the table. They are building the table themselves. June joins us now to unpack her motivations going into construction, the accomplishments, drawbacks, and future aspirations. June, thank you so much for coming on First Issues. We're here today to talk to you about your entrepreneurial pursuits in construction. So, my first question to you is, have you always wanted to venture into entrepreneurship in the path of construction, or was it just, a situation of circumstance?
It wasn't always a dream. I did not wake up in the morning or realize that I want to go into entrepreneurship. So growing up, I obviously switched careers, influence, school. I actually thought I was going to end up in arts, but in true reality, I did study a BCom management degree, marketing management degree in the University of Northwest, and I obviously wanted to go corporate. And then as I ventured into that straight after graduating, I realized that I don't think 9 to 5 is my thing. Yeah, and then as I was going, I got inspired by my dad, who's always been very entrepreneurial, and I kind of liked it. And then I took a chance at the whole construction thing, and I realized that I like it. And then I went on to pursue my Master of Science degree in project management, so that I can really make this a career. And now I'm enjoying it, and now I realize this has always been my calling.
With all of that enjoyment, what would you say has been your greatest achievement on this journey, especially as a young woman?
Like I said, I was taking chances in the beginning. I was like, let me try. And eventually trying became lucrative, it became feasible, it became physical. Suddenly I found myself on site. I found myself turning bushes into buildings, and I was like, this is working out. And obviously the exposure, I found myself also sitting in executive committees such as the Botswana Women in Construction throughout my journey, building houses, making dreams come true, and really it's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful journey.
One would assume that the industry within which you are enterprising is male dominated, and you would find that you are maybe one of two women in that boardroom and maybe even one of the youngest people there. How do you go about navigating such spaces and this industry as a whole? Has that been a hindrance for you?
Yes, it has. So my strategy is always to read the room, listen more than I speak, and knowing that I'm there for something. I'm there to achieve or to get or, complete a deal. So I don't pay attention to the negative senses. Yes, you do get clients that will question you based on your age. Is she really capable of building me a double story? Maybe on site, I work with a lot of men.
Yeah.
I have to delegate. Sometimes it's like, okay, what is this woman saying? But at the end of the day, I stand my ground because I know that I have targets to meet. I have a project to complete, and I know it's going to be a hindrance, but I try not to make it stand in my way to achieve anything. And it doesn't always happen, but it's there.
bitsa motho gore motho a leke mangwala e go duela metsi.
Mama, kana male jana ha o tlhoka le go tsamela kgakala gore go duela metsi. FNB re diretse tiro motho.
Senthe.
Ma kwa go marekisetsong a ile gore ana le tshwala FNB Cash Plus. Se se tlhokanyela ke o mang wa gago mo tirisong le reference number e bon dinomoro tse diriswang go ruratsa dituelo tsa gago.
FNB what?
FNB Cash Plus.
Madonna makante ke monto sampolele ka mananeo ya FNB ya Cash Plus.
La ha re le nna ke gone go utang ka dona ebile ke be ke sa dumele.
Deposit cash and coins, withdraw from e-wallet, make cardless cash withdrawals, buy prepaid airtime and electricity, pay bills such as water, electricity and many more.
FNB. Dona. Nyawa ene ke ra sa thare. Mpare mo tiki. Na ke ra go motho hela mamarapedi. O tola skontere hela. O bua go semosong wa go duela semosong. Manane wa FNB Cash Plus.
FNB, how can we help you?
As I was going, I got inspired by my dad, who's always been very entrepreneurial, and I kind of liked it. And then I took a chance at the whole construction thing, and I realized that I like it. And then I went on to pursue my Master of Science degree in Project Management so that I can really make this a career.
Welcome back to First Issues. Our conversation with June Seisa continues now, where she focuses on the challenges that she encountered on her entrepreneurship journey.
What would you say has been your biggest trial by fire that you had to encounter or you encountered when you were starting out your company, and how has that influenced your leadership style?
That's a very good question, because my first big project, according to my portfolio, obviously there was a need for funds. And here's an opportunity, here's a client that's trusting me to rehabilitate a school. So that was my biggest trial by fire. I did not want to lose this opportunity. I needed to make it happen for myself. I'm grateful for the financial institutions that were in place, that were there to assist, but it was a mission because they needed to trust if everything will go well, if the money will come back. So for me, that was the biggest, and I made sure from there, I made sure that I never stumble upon such an issue, because every project should be able to generate the next one. So discipline. Discipline, when you make a profit, you don't just rush to the mall, buy a dress. You know that this is going to help me when I move on to the next project. And also being patient and, being resilient, because I had people almost close to giving up. They're like, you see, we told you, she's not gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. And I did it. So it taught me how to be resilient. It taught me how to select the right team. Having a patient group of employees is also something that's been a plus for me. Very loyal, very in line with me in terms of the vision, and yeah. I'm loving it.
So then how do you deal with the naysayers, right? You say that you've encountered people, they would say, we knew she wouldn't do it. Musadio, that sort of thing. How do you navigate such people or such instances? Does it ever affect you in any shape or form?
It used to. But as I went along, I realized, the only thing that I can do is to succeed in this. I shouldn't care much about the doubts, the naysayers. My only mission is to succeed in what I do, no matter how long it takes. So no, the older I get, the more experience I get in this industry, the tougher I've just become. It doesn't really affect me that much anymore. I grew a thick skin.
Yeah, it's very important in entrepreneurship. And what is also important right now is that we are moving away from traditional construction features, right? We are now going more green. So how have you incorporated that in the way you construct your infrastructure, the one that you're contracted for?
Yes. So this is something that we introduced just after COVID, introducing the green building to our clients. And fortunately, we've worked with some architects that were also so big on going green. So the most common one is obviously the solar paneling to save energy. And then the most recent common one that we usually recommend to our private clients is the grey water recycling. Clients are very happy with that. It saves money, it saves energy, it saves the environment. And also smart lighting. There's something that we recently introduced with our latest client that was like natural lighting, sky lighting, instead of using like actual electricity. Unfortunately, we found those in South Africa. Hopefully it'll come out in Botswana in the near future. So grey water recycling, solar paneling, and sky lighting.
As a trailblazer, right, in your respective field, how are you making sure that the door stays open for other aspirant young women who want to go into the trades industry?
How am I making sure? I think I need to introduce you to an organization called the Botswana Women in Construction Organization. It has over 600 women in the construction industry. We have your architects, we have your quantity surveyors, your contractors, your electricians, plumbers, you name it. So it's a safe space where we see women, the group is growing largely, so that we can show women that, look, this is actually a fun field to be in. It can still look pretty, it can still look glamorous, and there's nothing to be afraid of. So I think young women are already seeing the beauty of being in this dirty game. By dirty game, I mean literally cement, didaga, huduba, you know, and stuff. So I think women are slowly moving into that, because it's not just being a contractor, it's also, there's other aspects of being in construction. The door is open. I think they're realizing that themselves. What I'm doing is just being an inspiration to the others and making sure, like I said, I try and succeed in this department so that I have something to show. They have something to see.
Speaking of something to show, what does the future look like for you when you envision it for your business and yourself as an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm definitely going to stick to this. I'm definitely going to stick to this. I find myself striving a bit towards the private sector. Yes, I have done a few government projects here and there, but I'm loving how people are more open to infrastructure and enhancing their spaces, their residential spaces. The future, I really can't tell the future, but I'm definitely positive about it, and I definitely want to delve more and expand myself more into the construction industry. You know, like I said, I have a Master of Science in Project Management. I'm trying to think design. I need to know a bit of everything. Quantity surveying, at least entry level. So I really just want to expand myself to grow in this, because it's really my passion.
As Botswana continues the journey towards Vision 2036, entrepreneurs like June Seisa are the architects of that reality, building a legacy that screams to every young girl in Gaborone and beyond that the sky is not the limit. It is just the view from the top of your own skyscraper. And on that note, see you shortly after commercials.
tla bitsa motho gore motho a leke mangwala go duela metsi.
Mama, ka maledi ana ha o tlhokana le go tsamela kgakala gore go duela metsi. FNB re diretse tiro motlho. Ma kwa go marekisetsong a ile gore ana le tshwao la FNB Cash Plus. Se se tlhokanyela ke o mang wa gago mo tirisong le reference number e bong dinomoro tse di diriswang go ruragatsa dituelo tsa gago.
FNB what?
FNB Cash Plus.
madona makante ke mo ntse sampolele ka mananeo a FNB ya Cash Plus.
Hela ha re le nna ke gone go utlwang ka dona ebile ke ne ke sa dumele.
Deposit cash and coins, withdraw from e-wallet, make cardless cash withdrawals, buy prepaid airtime and electricity, pay bills such as water, electricity and many more.
FNB.
Dona. Nyawa ene ke ra sa thare. Mpare mo tiki. Na ke ra go motho ya la mamarapedi. O tola skonterela. Wa go semosong go duela semosong. Manane wa FNB Cash Plus.
FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. For years, the skyline of Gaborone was defined by traditional glass and concrete structures that often fought with the environment. But as of 2026, Botswana is witnessing a strategic pivot led by the Botswana Green Building Council and reinforced by new national building codes. The property sector is shifting from high consumption designs to high performance assets. The introduction of green building codes in late 2025 marked a watershed moment in the industry. No longer just a voluntary nice to have, sustainable features are becoming a regulatory benchmark. The green in green building is not just about the environment, it's about the Bula. Forward-thinking property leaders, such as those at Khumo Property Asset Management, are proving that sustainable management is a risk mitigation strategy. Our conversation is with Property Manager Commercial at Khumo Property Asset Management, Kagiso Sebetso, to further unpack this pivot and how older buildings can adapt to the green movement. Kagiso, thank you so much for coming on First Issues and affording us your time. We're here to discuss with you Botswana's pivot to green buildings, right, for sustainable development. But our first question could be, what is the role of green buildings in building sustainability in Botswana?
The simplest way to think about it, or the way that I think about it, buildings would probably be the heartbeat of your urban development, so to speak. And so what you put in the building is what you're actually going to pump out eventually to your surroundings, because buildings don't operate in isolation, right? So they impact the people that interact with them, and buildings impact the nature around us. They can cause pollution to water, to soil, and to air. And buildings basically shape the life of a city.
To follow up on that, how or what are some of those practical approaches to, you're talking about water, so water management, energy efficiency, and some environmental considerations?
So if you're talking about a new building, the way in which you can intervene in terms of how far it impacts the environment is different from when you're intervening with an existing building that's already built. So in terms of a building that's new, ideally what you want, say for example with energy efficiency, you first want to start with the fabric of the building. Okay, you want a building where you can be in the building and it's built and oriented in such a way that you would probably not need to switch on the lights during the day while you're in the office, so to speak, or you probably don't need to have your AC on the entire time. And all of that is determined by how a building is built. We have what we call it passive design principles. So basically, your building doesn't gain too much heat from outside, right? And so it stays cooler even without air conditioning. And then in winter, it doesn't lose heat to the outside, so it stays warmer without air conditioning. And then from that's when you start moving to your efficient technology to say that my building is passive enough, and therefore my technology doesn't have to be so big.
So when it comes to buildings that are already existing or older buildings, how then can property managers make sure that they are well adapted into the green movement?
When it comes to buildings that are existing, it has a lot more to do with how we interact with the buildings. So often when we talk about green building certifications for property management, we are looking at our management practices within the building. Are we using the right materials? Are we cleaning with the right materials in the building, things that are actually right for the environment? So it's more what we do, because at that point there's very little that you can do with the structure that you have in place.
To land this plane, Kagiso, how would you argue that green practices lead to overall economic resilience and sustainable development?
So this one I might be a little bit controversial. I'll just pick on something like energy efficiency. I think at the moment as a country we are very spoiled because our electricity tariffs are subsidized by government. So what BPC charges us for electricity is not reflective of how much it costs them to bring that electricity to our facilities. And because of that, we are very lax in terms of pursuing energy efficient practices in the way that we do buildings, whether be it in our homes or offices or industrial spaces. And I think once that subsidy is removed or is somewhat eroded or whatever happens, then we will start to feel the cost of energy or the cost of electricity. And then it will become very clear as to how energy efficiency is important for economic resilience.
The most valuable properties of the future will be those that work with the Botswana sun and soil and not against them. In this market, green is the new gold standard for resilience and profitability. We have come to the end of tonight's installment of First Issues. Until next time, good night.
This program was proudly brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.